What it is, what it ain't. About to try to get to another reaction video. Confessions of a Mobster, I believe we're gonna be watching today. Like usual, I ain't gonna try to say too much. At least not too much to bother y'all. Without further ado, let's try to get into it. I ain't never seen this episode. I don't know what this is gonna be about.
Frank Cullotta was a member of one of the most dangerous mob crews in history.
Frank was cold-blooded. He was a killer. He was a criminal.
I had no remorse. He follows his ruthless mob boss, Tony the Ant Spilatro, to Las Vegas for a glittering opportunity to live the high life.
First year in Las Vegas was good, made a lot of money, did a lot of partying, did a lot of gambling. Yeah, it was very good.
But his hopes for hitting the jackpot die.
And then it got to be very bad.
When his boss decides to take him out.
Clean your dirty laundry.
But breaking the mob's code of silence could mean the death of his dark American dream and the end of the entire Chicago outfit.
Do I consider myself a rat? Yeah, absolutely.
In Chicago, thanks to bootlegging, Tommy guns, and extreme violence, organized crime first makes a name for itself in the 1920s. Led by the infamous Al Capone, the Chicago mob is known as the Outfit. Under Capone's leadership, the Outfit earns a reputation as the most dangerous mafia gang in the world. By 1975, the Outfit orders the killing of their own boss, Sam Giancana, as he is about to testify for the FBI. That same year, they allegedly orchestrate the disappearance of union leader Jimmy Hoffa. In the 1970s, the Outfit sets its sights on Las Vegas.
Well, Chicago outfit's interest in Las Vegas was primarily the operation of skimming at the hotels that they controlled.
James Arnoldi is a retired FBI agent assigned at the time to the Las Vegas division.
I worked in the area of organized crime, specifically the Chicago outfit.
In the 1970s, the Outfit controls 3 casinos in Las Vegas. Mob boss Tony the Ant Spilatro runs their operations on the Strip. Despite his small stature that earned him his nickname, Spilatro was a notoriously ruthless enforcer for the Outfit.
Tony Spilatro was a tough guy. He could really handle himself.
In 1971, Spilatro sets up shop in Vegas to handle the Outfit's business there, fencing stolen goods, extorting locals, and skimming gambling profits. By 1979, business is booming for the Outfit, but Spilatro needs more muscle to control the casinos. He turns to his childhood friend from Chicago, Frank Cullotta. Cullotta is a second-generation criminal, loyal to the Mafia's code of complete obedience and willing to do whatever it takes to please Spilatro.
Frank Cullotta was cold-blooded. He was a killer. He was a criminal. Tony trusted Frank to do the right thing for the outfit.
And I said, what are you expecting out of me out here? What's my function going to be? He first of all wanted me to watch his back to make sure that he wouldn't get whacked. He also wanted me to keep in contact with pit bosses, casino managers, and the startups. What I've learned about being connected to the outfit is you definitely had to follow the protocol. If you went against it, you were going to get either reprimanded, beaten up, or killed.
Cullotta also realizes there is money to be made in Vegas for himself and the Outfit, which gets a cut of any crime an associate commits.
It did look like easy pickings probably to the Chicago outfit.
You know, everybody wants to move to Vegas. It was a town, you know, people think the streets are lined with gold. Sure, I thought it was a great opportunity to live in Vegas.
The exploits of Cullotta and his boss, Tony Spilatro, became the basis for Martin Scorsese's 1995 film, Casino. In the movie, the character based on Tony Spilatro was played by Joe Pesci, and Frank Cullotta by actor Frank Vincent. And just like in the film, the real mobsters have Vegas in their back pockets.
A lot of money was going out through the skimming, and they wanted to make sure that it was getting back to them in Chicago.
enforcement is powerless to stop the mob's reign over Sin City. But a crackdown is coming. One that will eventually weaken the outfit's hold on Vegas forever. In Vegas, Tony Spilotro asked Culata to put together a crew of the best criminals he could find. A team that would come to be known as the Hole in the Wall Gang.
Back in the early 80s, a lot of systems were not as sophisticated as they are today. Frank Culata's crew understood this. Therefore, they would often just bash a hole in the side of the wall. Therefore, their nickname is the Hole in the Wall Gang.
Culata's team will also function as professional enforcers for the outfit.
The guys in my crew that I put together, one was a master burglar. His name was Leo. The other one was a soldier, Ernie. Wayne was also an armed robber with a clean face. When I say clean face, he could give up face to pull an armed robbery because he lived in Chicago and come back and forth. Then I had Larry. He was a killer. No different than a serial killer. Loved to kill.
Frank's crew in Las Vegas certainly would deal with people that they felt had stolen money from the mob, cheated the mob, that type of thing. They were used for that type of situation.
Spilotro also plans to use Culata's crew for easy money. He guarantees them a piece of the action, and then he sets the Hole in the Wall Gang loose on Las Vegas. For Culata, it's a chance to live it up in Las Vegas and improve his standing in the mob. As long as he stays on the good side of Spilotro and the Chicago outfit, the opportunities seem endless.
We robbed a lot of drug dealers. They were the easiest ones to rob. We robbed everything there was to be robbed as long as there was money involved. First year in Las Vegas was good, made a lot of money. A lot of money. We robbed a lot of jewelry stores. It was very good. The one who makes the most money's got the most power. It's all about money.
Culata's crime spree makes him a rising star in the Vegas criminal world, and the job comes with perks.
Did a lot of partying, did a lot of gambling. So I had a lot of girls around. You know, they wanted to be around wise guys. It was a glamorous life.
But Culata's increasing status in the outfit is threatened after he becomes involved with a small-time crook and drug dealer named Jerry Lisner.
Jerry Lisner was an individual in Las Vegas. He had a reputation as a con man.
I was introduced to this listener guy, and I didn't like this guy very much because I could see he was sort of like a weasel.
He approached Frank one time regarding a scam he was going to run.
When listener found out who I was connected to, being Tony Spilotro, he latched on to me.
But Spilotro and Culata find out that Lisner is cooperating with the feds.
Jerry Lisner testified in a federal grand jury. At that point, Frank and Tony were concerned about what he might have said.
So we gotta kill him.
Culata, following mob rules, obeys Spilotro.
I never got any joy out of killing people. That's just what I had to do. I mean, if I was earning
Really?
whatever it was, I'd have to do it. Motion goes out the window.
With his lookout man waiting outside, Culata moves in for the kill. Culata, always the loyal soldier, carries out his orders.
I shoot him in the head. First two went in there, they were rapid, real fast. Bang, bang. He's running. Still running, and I know I'm shooting him in the head.
Mm.
I just can't understand why nothing's happening.
Murdering Lisner proves more difficult than expected.
Natural reaction for anybody if you're this far into a murder is to complete it. So the best thing I could do is strangle him.
This dude crazy.
Cord just snapped. Meanwhile, I
Yo, this dude crazy.
I emptied the rust off his face. You're almost at a bit of panicking right at that time.
Kulana does whatever it takes to get the job done, expecting that Spilatro will be loyal in return.
I drag him and I throw him into the pool. So wash anything evidence he had on him of me goes in the pool.
Frank Cullotta and Tony Spilatro would only consider it a business situation. Whether they liked him or not, they felt that murder would have to be conducted in order to protect them specifically and the outfit in general.
Vegas police suspect that the outfit has something to do with the killing and numerous other crimes around the city, but they don't have any hard evidence yet,
It's a small town, and you're not going to get away with it forever.
especially with a new lawman in town. Sheriff John McCarthy and his team vow to rid Vegas of organized crime.
And they swore that they were going to bring down Tony Spilatro and Frank Cullotta. They swore that they were going to handle organized crime in Las Vegas.
McCarthy put Spilatro's crew under almost constant surveillance.
It was 24 hours a day they would follow us, but yet we were still able to commit robberies.
The mob was beating the feds at their own game.
One thing we had going for us as professional criminals, we had people monitoring their calls, police calls, plus the detectives' calls. Any cops that were undercover, our radio system was top of the line. We had a better communication system than they did, so we were a step ahead of them at all times.
But Cullotta makes a mistake when he ignores the outfit and commits a crime solely for his own gain. Frank uses his gang to steal furniture for his own house.
They go in and they empty this whole place. They bring it to my new house.
A neighbor spots Cullotta and his gang suspiciously moving new furniture into his house.
The following morning at 6 a.m., my wife goes and answers the door. Everybody's there, the whole police department. And they took us both to jail. My wife in her slip and me in a rope.
It was this petty burglary that would eventually lead to the end of mob control of Las Vegas. The public arrest angers Cullotta's boss, Tony Spilatro, and he refuses to pay Cullotta's bail.
With all these problems, my relationship with Tony was strained.
While Frank Cullotta was in jail, he was not making any money. And if you're not making any money, what good are you?
But Cullotta has more than prison to worry about if he doesn't stay in Spilatro's good graces.
At this particular time, I had to find a score that was going to be well worth our while.
The payoff for Cullotta must be big enough to give Spilatro a healthy cut and pay his own legal bills. Once he forks over the cash for his own bail, Cullotta gets a tip about a local jewelry store.
And they said that this place could possibly have $1 million in jewelry and cash in there.
This could be the most lucrative heist in Cullotta's criminal career. It could also be his last chance to keep Spilatro from turning on him. But Cullotta is short a driver for the jewelry heist. His associate Ernie brings in a new man, Sal.
Well, Ernie meets this guy, Sal Romano. I didn't like Sal. For some reason, I had this gut feeling that the Sal guy was a bad guy.
Unbeknownst to Cullotta, Sal is secretly working with FBI agent Dennis Arnoldi.
The FBI and the Metropolitan Police Department are working together
It looks like the feds down there. Then they come in from all directions. And then they arrested me. And I seen that they had my 3 guys on the concrete out in front. They took them off of the roof. And they were cuffing them. With the exception of Sal Romano.
Thanks to his long criminal career, Frank is facing a possible life sentence. The arrest could also mean the end of his rocky relationship with his boss, Tony Spilatro.
I'm sitting in the Clark County jail, and I'm sort of mad at Tony.
You'd always been told if this happened to you, the outfit would take care of your wife and family. But his was not being taken care of. He needed an attorney, and he asked Tony Spilatro for help, but Tony would only come up with part of the money.
He never said, I'm sorry, I made the wrong call on this. He didn't help on any of the bills. Sure, I'm mad at Tony for not helping.
Frank knows that behind bars he's a sitting duck as far as the outfit's concerned.
He knew, being in jail, the outfit would think that he might possibly become a government witness, and therefore would kill him.
So I'm sitting there and I'm trying to get over it. And then I get a visit.
The FBI brings a tape of a conversation they want Frank to hear, a warning that his life was in danger.
And that's when I heard that audio tape. One of the alpha guys from Chicago talked on Bring Your Dirty Laundry.
Vegas, 1982. Frank Collada learns his old friend, mob boss, Tony Spilatro, has put a hit out on him. He knows he must make a decision.
And I sat there and I started thinking about how long things were going for me with Tony.
Realizing his promising future with the mob is unraveling, Collada makes a life-changing decision.
I was angry. I felt as though I was betrayed. So I called the FBI.
Rat bastard.
And we sat down and I gave him all this information that I had.
Collada's defection is a major coup for law enforcement.
I worked very steadily with Frank Collada from the time he became a government witness in 1982 for several years.
By 1983, Collada's testimony led to the indictment of 18 people on federal racketeering charges, including Tony Spilatro. Collada fingered Spilatro as the mastermind behind the Hole in the Wall gang, who the FBI believed committed at least 200 robberies between 1980 and 1981. Collada also ties Spilatro to the Jerry Lisner killing.
Tony Spilatro and his associates were eventually indicted in federal court in Las Vegas, and they went to trial. The trial ended in a mistrial.
But Spilatro was also a suspect in more than 20 murders. With 3 more high-profile trials still to come, in 1986, he finally met the same fate as many of his fellow mobsters.
Not too long after that, Tony Spilatro and his brother were killed by their associates in the Chicago outfit. Both Tony and Michael had been beaten to death.
The Spilatro brothers were dumped in a grave in an Indiana cornfield.
Damn.
The film Casino recreated the killings in a scene considered one of the most violent in motion picture history.
I was not happy with it. Truly, I didn't like the idea of the way they killed him. I figured if they wanted to kill him, why didn't they just shoot him in the head? Strangle him? Why beat him to death? Why make him suffer?
Spilatro's brutal murder ended an era in Las Vegas. The mob would never regain its power on the Strip, and in fact, Sin City cleaned up its image in the 1980s, billing itself as a family destination. Frank Collada served 8 years in prison for his crimes. When released, Collada joined the Witness Protection Program, leaving behind his Vegas lifestyle. It took years for Collada to come to terms with his own decision to Code of Honor he had followed for so long.
It's a very, very difficult decision to make when you grew up into a world like I grew up in. Everybody's honorable to everybody. It's the syndicate, the outfit that comes first.
But today, the infamous outfit is not nearly as strong as it once was. In the last 30 years, trouble with the law leaves only about 50 main members, down from approximately 300 during the outfit's heyday. For Culotta, Hollywood came calling, and in 1995, in addition to appearing as a hitman known as Curly in Scorsese's Casino, he became a consultant on several TV shows and films. Today, Culotta lives with the consequences of his actions, and can never find peace.
Do I consider myself a rat? Absolutely.
But you're just as dirty as
I'm
them.
probably gonna always be paranoid till the day I die about who's in back of me.
Frank Culotta has every reason to live his life looking over his shoulder.
Thanks for tuning in. Like, comment, subscribe. You know the deal.